Hello, everyone. Happy to be here on behalf of SENSILIZE. And as a company that was working with sustainable farming, we are happy to discuss it together with Menthol. Recently, we have became partners based on our common goals, and those are helping farmers to achieve organic production, which is quite of a hurdle, simply because there is an existing cultural practice of food production that is not good for the nature, not good for productivity, and we have to do something about it. While the existing industry is shaped for the non-very sustainable companies, we are fighting together for the space and for the opportunity to give farmers all over the world tools and knowledge in order to go sustainable and then eventually go organic. Then from non-sustainable to sustainable farming, and from sustainable farming to regenerative agriculture. I would like to say thank you to Amir for inviting me, and I'm happy to discuss today a lot of aspects of this industry and the ways we are going to tackle the problems existing.
Amazing. Thanks a lot, Pasha. Very honored of having you over here. We had the lovely pleasure of meeting in Token 49. It's like now, I think, 5 months back. And there I got to know you as Hillman Capital, Hillman Venture. I understand that you're so deep in the crypto space. And so it was a big surprise for me when I was mentioning that we're in sustainability since 2 years, that this is actually like the third generation of social and environmental businesses you have as a core, actually, next to the traditional financing business you're in. So it's like, it was a pleasure and a ride. So against this background, we are super excited on tackling one of the biggest challenges we have in the environmental space, also in the agriculture space. And I'm very excited of discussing those topics with you. But Pasha, both of us in Davos, we had a lovely week over here. We had a few events. We know each other very well. Maybe you can start and give us a small intro on who you are, what you're interested in, and then we can talk about the vision and mission we have. A small spoiler alert. Our vision and mission is to create revenue models allowing environmental projects to actually be seen as a integral part of our economic system, benefiting them through liquidity, benefiting them through verifiable climate action. And I think we've got a few interesting topics to talk about. Just before handing over and wanting to know more about you, about your family history in the business, I would love to have the understanding of what we're actually talking about, what the biggest challenges are. We've got the climate crisis. We know that we need a two-step approach to actually tackle it. First step is reducing the carbon footprint. We know that. That's the responsibility of the organizations, of the governments, and the individuals through purchasing power. The second step of fighting against the climate action is actually accounting for the non-avoidable carbon footprint, which we will always have in our economic system, and offsetting it by, for example, purchasing carbon credits, biodiversity credits, soil credits, water credits. We've got a complex issue, a complex problem, but the solution is fairly easy. We have to create revenue streams for those environmental projects. We have to bridge a liquidity gap, which is there. And all of this is only possible through verifiable and scalable solutions. So I know you'll be jumping into a few different topics, but your venture, which you acquired, SENSILIZE, which is basically, from my understanding, creating digital twins of environmental projects and allowing AI to come in and to optimize the farming practices in a regenerative way. This is something, which we struggle with in the regenerative finance space. So I think that's a small intro of topics we'll discuss. Thanks for taking the time in Davos and actually, giving us the chance to share this with our community. we'll have a Twitter space coming up in peace with more talks, with more discussions. Thanks for taking the time, Pasha. I'll hand over to you. Tell us what inspires you, who you are, where you come from, and why your family business is in the third generation already leading in this field. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Amir. Yes, I am a sustainability tech entrepreneur. Well, I consider myself one, but this is because I'm coming from agricultural tech background as well as the digital, and we are kind of making a hybrid of these technologies, biotech, digital, in order to give those tools I just mentioned. And this came out of my business initially. It was a distribution of sustainable fertilizers, nutrients, biological products from all over the world. In Eastern Europe, we have over 1,000 clients, which are large farms, and they are obviously interested to increase the yield of the crops they produce, to increase the quality as well as the quantity of harvest. And when we are coming to the farm, they kind of using the unsustainable products such as mineral fertilizers, which I mean are nitrogen, phosphorus, and potash. And those are really, really important, but they are often overused and cause a lot of damage to nature. And at the same time, it doesn't really help plants. It causes rather more stress. And this is a new science that is used in agriculture. It's not new because it existed before, but it was in academia in the lab. But last 5 to 10 years has been widely accepted in practical farming. And when we were selling, we came to Ukraine, for example, as a first company that offered biologicals and signaling molecules and various nutrients in combination. Increase in the productivity of farming, of crop production particularly. So we had to teach as well as that, we had to explain them how to use current agronomical principles and how to apply plant physiology. So obviously it was very challenging because it's not easy to disrupt any industry, and it takes a lot of investment into the education. So we have been doing that for a while. And obviously when you want to sell something to a farm, you want to try it out first. So field trials where you have to show that you spend less money and you get better results, in contrast to the conventional old practices. And however, these trials were not always successful. Some of them would give a dramatic increase in the yield and the quality of the crop. And on the other cases, we would have the opposite, not the opposite effect, but no increase. And that is because farmers didn't take into account various biophysical parameters of soil. They don't take into account the climate, the weather changes that happen every day. And it's very hard to track those information streams live. And it takes a lot of machine power to aggregate the data, to analyze it, and to help the farmers, because agricultural data is the most diverse one. It's the most saturated with various parameters that change constantly. So that's what brought me to precision agriculture, or so-called smart farming, where you actually apply only necessary amount of the nutrition in the specific locations of the field, which is sometimes done by the drones, sometimes by the variable application spraying machinery. But this is a new way to tackle the nutrition in the course of season. So this is why I acquired SENSILIZE. It was manufacturing optical devices such as multispectral sensors. It's like basically a camera, sophisticated camera with spectral filters that is mounted on a drone, and then the drone is launched to fly across the field and scan it by taking pictures every second. Then those pictures are stitched together on orthomosaic software that is basically putting them all into one map. And then you can put this map on the existing GPS location map, and therefore tag locations where the problem is and what individual problem it is. Like, for example, saturation of nitrogen in soil, or potash, or excess amount of water, or the opposite, the lack of water, as well as the type of soil, and many, many other things. So by taking this data, we learned how to also apply machine learning algorithms to be able to spot those things automatically, because otherwise it takes just a lot of time for a human being to process this kind of volume of data in a very short period of time. So it would make us, deliver the data too late when you can't apply it anymore. So in order to be on time and to tell farmer enough in advance what to do and where, what to apply, in which amounts, then this becomes a solution. Otherwise, it's not possible. It's not very useful, because farmer has pretty much about 3 days to react to the recommendation we're giving them, and we spend about half a day to generate those recommendations. And therefore, it is a great combination to use the digital tech, remote sensing tech, cloud computing, as well as biotech for farming to achieve those purposes. It's not an easy job for farmer. So farmer has to learn how to use the drones, how to maintain them, how to use the sensors, how to maintain those types of equipment. And farmers are typically rather people from the past than people of the future. So we're trying to sell technology of the future to the people from the past. So that makes our job very challenging. But given the amount of incentive nowadays for sustainable agriculture, given the amount of subsidies that are available, various grants and special loans with special conditions, farmers have finally obtained this kind of opportunity, and we need to bridge their current needs and their current requests to this digital tool and deliver those online. We also, yes, as you mentioned, we've also been participating in those programs. We received quite a large grant from Israeli Innovation Authority in the past, and together with 5 other companies and 6 universities, we have been working on phenotyping AI. So now, after 4 years of research and development, we also came up with an app that helps, a computer vision app that helps you scan your grape bush, for example, and see an important insights like how this has to be cut, and how this has to be looked after. So you know what's the percentage of ripening, how much harvest you will have given the situation as of today. And obviously you can take action just with your mobile phone in your hand. You don't need drones, satellites for this specific type of agriculture. And it's very important because majority of farmers in the world are smaller enterprise. They would have an average size of their farm below 5 hectares. And obviously they don't have enough knowledge, they don't have enough finance to buy all these expensive things such as drones, sensors. And therefore, we have made a specially designated product for small and medium enterprises, orchards in particular, and berries, where we can give the access to the farmer just from the app. So all they need is a mobile phone with a smartphone which is not older than 4 years, and they can implement those practices and make more money so they can afford buying equipment like drones and satellites. So this is our latest kind of innovation that is doing really well now. We're launching it. We tested it in more than 7 big corporations and small farmers, like dozens of small farmers. So now we're launching it. It's called C Crop. It's going to be an app you'll be able to find on App Store or Google Play. And this is what we've been doing. Unfortunately, in Ukraine, we're been operating as well as in Italy, Georgia, and the United States. We had a problem because of the war. A lot of farmers stopped producing their crops. They cut their costs to the minimum. And this is a very dangerous situation, because Ukraine is the biggest supplier of sunflower, for example. It's one of the biggest suppliers of corn in the world and grain in general. So it's a bread basket of Europe, and it's not only Europe. It concerns the whole world, how this will continue. So we are taking the action together with Menthol Protocol to provide more tools to the corporations, from big corporations to small farmers, these opportunities to switch sustainable and then organic and then regenerative. Amir, I think I did a little of a summary here. So if you want me to dive into a very specific aspects of what I said, or maybe I missed out something, please help me with it. Thank you.
Amazing. No, thanks a lot for this lovely knowledge spill. So that's actually how I was I remember at the Marina Bay infinity pool, just like having my mouth open and listening to those very deep insights, me myself coming from business and economy background, as many innovators were, for example, tokenizing those carbon credits, soil credits, biodiversity credits, which create revenue streams to finance those innovations. So thanks a lot for sharing it. If I may reflect on what you've just been saying, is starting with the first point of you actually supplying, in contrast to the chemical companies, different bio products in order to optimize farming land. So this is already like a very regenerative approach, not even using Web 2 technology right there. So lovely that you took it to the next step, which is actually utilizing big data and AI to optimize the farming. So I understood that basically the one of the main issues of those farmers, right, is increasing their crops, increasing their productivity. I just heard in a panel we were together on an impact scope that farmers have a higher suicidal rate than prostitutes. So there's enormous pressure on this very, very dear and important industry. And I think it's admirable that in the third generation, you're already pushing this. I think if I don't misunderstand it, I think your grandpa was one of the leading academics.
Oh, yes.
Applying research for it.
I totally forgot to mention, yes, that I ended up in this agricultural sector simply because of my family. Everyone is a scientist apart from me, with a PhD background in animal genetics, biology, mycology, and pathology of crops. But I was rather an investment banker in the beginning. I followed the trend. I tried it for myself for a few years. I learned a lot, but I realized that this is not for me. Back longer than 10 years ago, I decided to focus on crop improvement via the physiology, because I've seen a business opportunity. Simply because back then the sustainability wasn't so fashionable right now, and we didn't do it because of this buzzword that we can put on our website. We did it simply because healthy crops give better yield, give better quality and quantity. And this is our unique way that we came with to penetrate through competition, and we succeeded. And if we succeeded, then anybody else can succeed, because business is competitive until disrupted by the new technology. And this is the time now. My grandfather, for example, has been working a lot, wrote 300 scientific works, published 32 books on animal genetics, invented 2 breeds of animals, as well as has like over 14 patents and inventions. And it took him a lifetime until the end of his life to produce so much. Now we have tools that, like AI, that help us to aggregate enormous amount of data and produce this kind of research much faster. We have AI in biotech, we have AI in generating content, we have AI in marketing, we have AI everywhere. You just have to be able to use the right AI to the right purpose, and just be knowledgeable and be disciplined about it, and don't be afraid to learn. Don't be lazy to learn, because you have to learn through your lifetime if you want to be on top of any subject, whatever you do. So I think this history of my family, and my father also, I forgot to mention, is a PhD, and he built a large company in Eastern Europe supplying agri-tech solutions to farms, but that was more on animal side. However, animal production cannot be sustainable without sustainable crop production, because today, in order to manufacture 1 kilogram of meat, you have to use at least 13,000 liters of water. If you can imagine how much it is, this is needed to irrigate the crops. This is needed to give water to the cows to drink. This is needed to wash the cows' barns and parlors, and maintain basically the whole process until the piece of meat goes on the shelf in the store. And at the same time, the logistics loses about 40% of the crops, wasting it. Because by the time they deliver it, by the time they go through all the bureaucracy to get paid, and then it's a huge problem, because half of the product is off. And then there is a next story, the argument, who will pay for the loss? Because nobody wants to take the responsibility. And when you said that farmers have higher higher rate of suicide than prostitutes, I'm not surprised at all, because look how hard it is to be a farmer. If you want to produce, I don't know, a bag, or a jacket, or a piece of clothes, or a glass, a piece of furniture, you need raw materials today, and tomorrow you have the product ready. And the day after tomorrow you can sell it, and 3 days later you are paid. That's it, and the whole cycle is finished. In farming, it's very different. They invest from day one into fertilizing their soil, into treating their seeds, into applying the seeds into the soil, and then if considerable temperature changes come, or wind, or hail, or snow in the wrong time, then you can lose all the harvest, all the investment you've been doing. And the best case is that in 6 months down the road, you will be able to get your harvest, to collect it, and then you put it in storage, because you are not the only one producing these crops. You have other local farmers that will compete with you, and therefore you will now have the second problem, is to get rid of the harvest that you collected before it's off, okay? And that means you have to pay for the storage, the electricity costs, for so many things, that it becomes an opportunity for commodity traders to drag the farmer through time, and negotiate for a very long time until farmer gives up and says, okay, I'll give you a discount of 20%. And then the commodity trader can make his money, satisfy his greed or desire to be rich, etc., or simply reach his targets. The commodity traders don't really care whether the farmer is going to commit suicide next year or he's not going to do that. And then this problem persists, because the debenture is paid only 1 year after the investment was made. And that's terrible because you have such a tremendous risk to lose the harvest at any point in time during the year. So many people just decide, why don't I just invest in property? It will also give me about 30% margin over time, or maybe 20% margin. Because I'm giving an example, comparing now the producer of wheat, which is the cheapest commodity nowadays, they make not more than 30% margin. And that's not the net profit, that's just the operating profit before tax, interest. So it's very important to give freedom to farmers, that they can go directly and work with each other, directly work with the marketplaces and stores, and deliver the products without the parties that are in between and that are interested to kill your business and to, so they can make more money now, today, and buy themselves a new Gucci bag or leather bag from Louis Vuitton, So we have to be realistic, because agriculture employs 1.3 billion people. So we're talking about more than 15% of the global population that is involved in this industry, and that is exposed to a threat of bankruptcies, suicides, etc. And when you're, I don't see a reason why we should compare them to prostitutes, because they're, even though it's also the most ancient profession, we need them much more, because we can live without paid sex, but we cannot live without food, and we have to feed the people around us. And the values that farmers bring us are more important than the values that the prostitution can give us. So let's rather dive into sustainable research rather than fancy bodies on Instagram, and let's try to make that the fashion. And it is actually becoming a fashion now already. We just have to push together, accelerate, show them all how we can help them to be free, to get power that they never had before. That's why our slogan of SENSILIZE says, empowering farmers with data, where we use the data to give an opportunity to farmer to act independently. And that data can be fetched directly to the retailers, and those retailers can make their decisions and communicate to our marketplaces that already are being built. I've seen several good examples of marketplaces that can help farmers, trade their commodities. Because look, there are derivatives of wheat, maybe corn as well. There's some kind of cow index on stock exchange. But how about the rest of the commodities? How about the orchards, the fruits, the vegetables, the berries, the other type of perennial and technical crops? That's extremely important. So it's also very important to get rid of the chemicals, because chemicals cause stress to the plants. It's like a chemotherapy for a human being. When somebody, God forbid, gets cancer, in many cases, doctor will prescribe chemotherapy. This is because there is no alternative, and this is a very broad kind of toxin that affects the body holistically, not only the cancer itself, and makes the organism really weak and susceptible to other diseases and other failures of certain organs. So in the same way it happens with the plants, because principles of physiology are pretty much the same in animals, human, and crops. We react to stress in a certain way, and it causes a knock-on effect. So this is what I say on it. Many people will support me, and I'm pretty sure you too.
Amazing. Thanks a lot, Pasha. So I think this is like this Twitter space itself is a case study of looking at the evolutionary steps from starting with academic research, which you find in the library, going over to maybe Web 1 solutions, where we have a website to share this information, and supporting the product sale of bio products instead of chemical products, going into the Web 2 era, where big data, AI, and platform business models, as you mentioned, empowering farmers with data, come together in order to optimize this further. So we are not at the end of the road. We still have a lot to do. And entering the Web3 era, we've got a very interesting set of tools to further enhance the revenue streams and we can create for those very important sectors on the one hand. On the other hand, we are allowing companies and individuals to actually account for their impact on the world and make better choices, verified choices of how they can actually have a positive impact on the world. So talking about Web3 and also the big promise here for the agriculture, but also for the environmental space, we've got like a huge movement, regenerative finance, coming on board. So this was a topic we talked a lot about. Just for everybody maybe new tuning in, we've discussed this in a few Twitter spaces already. Why is Web3 seen as a very important cornerstone in this whole equation, and also as a step to not only, let's say, disintermediate certain third parties which are verifying over here? That's like through Web2 solutions and AI and big data driven verifications, for example. But it actually goes one step further. Looking at the carbon credit market as one example, it's a 7 billion carbon credit market which we have there. We've got huge investors and many players coming in who are tokenizing it, who are bringing it on chain. We know that one big innovation of Web3 is tokenization. What issue does it solve in the carbon credit market as one example of a revenue stream? We've got many more types of credits which can also benefit the farmers and which the farmers can basically benefit from, like soil credits, biodiversity credits, etc. The big promise of Web3 for carbon credit market in specific is that we've got liquidity in a market which is very illiquid, very old-fashioned. We had the discussion that basically the carbon credit market as a financial tool, as a financial revenue stream for those environmental and agriculture projects can leapfrog into a whole new digital sphere where liquidity, security, automation come into place and elevate the carbon credit market into a way where we, for the first time, are having a hope that, as opposed to now, where 80 to 90% of the carbon credits, according to European studies, are very low quality, very very different from what they promise. We've got the possibility to first verify them through the big data and AI, and now to tokenize those verified carbon credits and bridge a liquidity gap, create new verification systems which are decentral and data driven, as opposed to current third parties out there, which have done amazing work in the last 20 years, creating this very new market, allowing revenue streams for environmental and agricultural projects. But they limit themselves to big players who have money to afford to actually go through the verification process. Many of them end up not having any verification. So this is the reason why a lot of investors believe that the whole value chain of carbon credits, the 7 billion carbon credit market, will go on-chain as a first industry to go on-chain fully, which is why we're always coming back to a point in our speaking opportunities and explaining why the next bull run might be the most regenerative one. Maybe this is a good point to shortly summarize. We've got many new listeners. Please feel free. We are going to soon close the Twitter space. But if you have any questions, please stand up. We'll love to take them. We'll also have a follow-up Twitter space where we're not standing between the doors in Davos and taking this Twitter space, but we'll have a bit more time and a bit more flexibility in keeping a longer Twitter space. We had many points to discuss. So one very important point of the Web3 transformation, as mentioned, are bridging the liquidity gap, creating new verification systems, and that's what Menthol Protocol does, actually making it very accessible for individuals and companies to donate or to sponsor such endeavors, as explained by Pasha, and which is very much needed by the market. So at this point, I think we've covered a lot of topics, and I think we're happy to look forward to the next Twitter space. If anybody has questions, we'll give a bit of time. Please raise your hand, come in. Thanks a lot, Pasha, for jumping in today. Thanks a lot for sharing the great knowledge base you have over here. And we are super interested in having Menthol Protocol being a useful tool for those farmers and for environmental projects leveraging Web3. So I know that there are a few stealth projects which are coming into place, but I think that has time for next Twitter space. Thanks a lot for everybody tuning in. And I would open up the stage for any questions. So actually, this was more or less the same reaction I had after I had the first lecture of Pasha, because it was a lot of information, and understanding this in its holistic setting is something where we first have to reflect on. But basically, we see here an evolution of academic Web 1, Web 2, and now Web 3 enabled solutions. We're following and allowing our mission, namely to support Mother Earth and also the farmers on the world into entering a new regenerative future. So thanks a lot to everybody tuning in. Pasha, you if you have any few last words, you can jump in. Thanks a lot from my side. Pasha, you have to unmute yourself, I think.
Oh, I'm really sorry. I was occasional. So thanks a lot for having me. It was a great pleasure to be here. I have so much more to say, but we are out of time. We have a panel to speak on. We have several meetings and roundtables to attend to spot out this opportunity and collaborate together with other companies we started. However, I want to continue the next Twitter space to discuss the verification mechanisms, the methods that we can use, why verification is really important, how does data analytics work in agriculture, how does the predictive analytics is built up, and how this can be used more specifically. We will come up with some case studies we are preparing now to show you guys, for example. And it was absolutely exciting and very interesting conversation. Looking forward for the next opportunity. Thanks, everyone. Hug you all. Thank you.
Amazing. Thanks a lot, Pasha, again for tuning in. Friends, we're looking forward to have a Twitter space, if not next week, then the following week. We're looking forward to change the world together. And thanks for all of your time. Warm regards from Davos. Bye-bye.